could just put this here if you want, like just for like backup. It's like right here. I just said in closing, Brady. Well, right here. Saint Juman. Saint Juman. Saint Juman. Saint Juman. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do the last part, the march and like thanking everyone. Say two lines and then I'm leaving it. So like the first part that I just want like be able to introduce yourself. For the end, I mean, we can all preview and see what you do. He's just going to introduce himself, just the ones that you remember, and then.
Good morning, and thank you all for attending NAU's MLK Day of Celebration. My name is Riley Stark. And I am Michael Colbert. And we are current e-board members of the Black Student Union. To begin, we have a speech from our Black Student Union President, Kobe Lee. And following her speech will be a land acknowledgement by Kiara Weathersby and of the Indigenous Student Success Center. Succeeding Kiara will be Ashley Martin Kassler, performing Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kobe Lee, and I am your current Black Student Union president. I hope you are all doing well and had an amazing break with family and friends. I hope that you were selfish by indulging in this thing we call self-care and understood that you are your greatest treasure. I hope that you had the chance to discover or remember the purpose that you have on this earth. And finally, I hope that you got the chance to binge watch Real Housewives of Atlanta for the 5th time, okay? Anyways, we are here today to commemorate, march, and be selfless in the name of Martin Luther King Jr. I want to thank President Cruz Rivera, President Maylee Acosta, faculty, students, allies, and Flagstaff community members for being here today. Today, we come together as one to continue to honor Dr. King's tireless efforts in the pursuit of social justice, as well as to embrace his teachings, acts on community service, and giving back to our communities. Just like Martin Luther King never walked away once he was called upon, once you are called upon, remember to never lose sight of the greatness you are destined to be. Never forget the individual path that you are set on, but do forget the naysayers. And if in some way you've ever lost your way, always remember your roots. It will never fail to bring you home. Thank you for coming, and thank you to those who are streaming online. We hope you enjoy the program.
Northern Arizona University sits at the base of the San Francisco Peaks, Do'okoshli, on homeland sacred to Native Americans throughout the region. We honor their past, present, and future generations who have lived here for millennia and will forever call this place home. We acknowledge that our nation and our institutions have benefited from the free enslaved labor of Black people. We recognize the interconnected histories of Indigenous peoples who were forcibly removed from their land and the history of those who were forcibly brought to it. We acknowledge the enduring impacts of the African diaspora and honor the contributions, talents, and dreams of our Black communities. We acknowledge the immigrant labor that has contributed to this country as a critical labor force, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples. We recognize and honor their important contributions. In these acknowledgements, we commit to the essential work of moving beyond awareness to action through meaningful changes at our institutions and in our communities.
Good morning. We will be singing verses 1 and verses 3 of Lift Every Voice and Sing. If you open your program, please feel free to sing along. And would you please rise? Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound calling thee. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weariness, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy wing, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Next up, we have an introduction from Tracy Gleason of the Office of Inclusion. And continuing directly after Tracy, our BSU advisor, Dr. Martin Tees, will be introducing our NAU president.
Thank you, Riley, Kobe, Kira, Ashley, and the NAU School of Music for that wonderful opening. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tracy Gleason, the Director of the Office of Inclusion here at Northern Arizona University. I want to begin by acknowledging the Black Student Union and Dr. Martin Tees for putting this wonderful program, March and Day of Service together. I'd also like to take the time to thank President Cruz Rivera, Dr. Margot Saltonstall, the various representatives from the diversity commissions, Maylee Acosta, our ASNAU president, and Bernadine Lewis for being here today to say a few words, recognizing, honoring, and celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to thank NAU social media and Joey Reese for helping us live stream the event this morning. And lastly, I want to thank all of you for also being here today in person and online as we spend time in community remembering Dr. King, his legacy, and his impact. I have been a member of the lumberjack community for over 20 years now, and I can recall many of the different celebrations hosted over the years. In some years, We celebrated with keynote speakers and various performers. In other years, we highlighted the knowledge and expertise of our academic community. In some years, we marched in snow or windy weather, while other times it was sunny and warm. And last year was the first time we celebrated MLK virtually via Zoom. Whatever the case may be, each and every celebration has been reflective of this community's ongoing and unwavering commitment to creating a more diverse, equitable, inclusive, and just campus for our students, staff, and faculty. They have also been reflective of our commitment, love, and genuine care for one another as lumberjacks. For today, we wanted to focus on ourselves as a community and provide an opportunity for you all to hear some reflections from some of our community members. Our hope is that this will give you time to learn from others and reflect on Dr. King's life and legacy and how you may be able to incorporate and honor his vision in your own lives. We ask you to reflect on the role you play in our community, your community at home, and the role and the Flagstaff community as a whole. What can you do to make a difference? What can you do to affect positive change? And what can you do to continue to advance the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Before I hand the microphone back over, I wanted to quickly share with those of you who are streaming online that the commemorative march will begin shortly after the conclusion of this program. We understand that some of you may need to travel and leave your locations from the live stream to make your way to the Du Bois Center to join the group. The march will leave the Du Bois Center between 11:10 to 11:15 after the group is gathered together and organized. The march will make its way up the pedway from the Du Bois Center to the University Union Fieldhouse where the Office of Inclusion is located. You may also join the march at any point along the pedway. As an act of care, we ask all attendees to wear their masks during the march. Again, thank you for being here today.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So I want to welcome you to this annual Dr. Martin Luther King Day Jr. celebration. As my director, Tracy Gleason, said, this is one of many that we have done. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing someone who is new to the university. But before I do, my name is Dr. Martin Tees. I'm one of the coordinators in the Office of Inclusion, and I'm also a University Diversity Fellow. And I have to say, I'm very happy to be here today because this is a very special weekend. Catch my name, you'll figure that one out. We do celebrate Dr. King, but I also celebrated my annual 28th birthday not too long ago. So I know we're here for him, but thank you. Before I introduce President Cruz Rivera, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge members of our historic Black fraternities and sororities who are present in the audience today. There are 9 Black historic fraternities and sororities, also known as when they came about and when they were instituted in a world where they were not allowed to be in other Greek organizations, they came together to create possibilities for themselves, to educate, and to also be members of the community. And so today, we have 5 of those who celebrate their foundings in January: Kappa Alpha Psi, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Delta Sigma Theta, Phi Beta Sigma, and we do a shout out. I hear there's a Sigma Gamma Rho person that's here in the room, so there we go. But we also want to give a special shout out to those who are in Zeta Phi Beta who celebrated their founding on January the 16th. Now, and again, I know we have other members here that are watching, and I would be remiss if I didn't name them. So I did say Sigma Gamma Rho. We also have Omega Psi Phi, Iota Phi Theta, Alpha Phi Alpha, which was Dr. King's fraternity. Our next speaker that I'm going to call up is Northern Arizona University's 17th president. Dr. Cruz Rivera began his inaugural term beginning last year in June of 21. Dr. Jose Cruz Rivera has made history as the first member of the Hispanic Latinx community to run this institution from the presidential suite. Now, he's very modest. He did not have a long bio that he wanted me to read, but I do have to get some things in there, sir, so bear with me. One of the great things about President Cruz Rivera is he has started out on our diversity and strategic plan, a roadmap for NAU, and he continues his career dedicated and passionate about education. It's been my pleasure and fun to see President Cruz Rivera walking about campus or in town, running with the freshmen, and even getting dunked in a dunk tank last year in our fall welcome community. President Cruz Rivera has even given out his cell phone number so students who wish to call him can. Obviously, this phone number is not to be used for only for serious and important matters. And some students are in here and you know who I'm looking at. Please don't abuse the privilege. I don't think that I can help you should he get mad. So, Mr. President, the very best part about you being here is that, well, not the very best part, but one of the great parts in the history that you created since being here is that NAU football beat University of Arizona for the first time since 1932. Right. For all my friends and family who are watching from U of A, bear down. Along with that, and along with all the other great things our athletes are doing, they too are making history, and we're very welcome about that. Although we're still dealing with COVID-19, we're glad to have you at the helm of this university and look forward to hearing your work. So if you would all please help me welcome the 17th president of Northern Arizona University, Dr. Jose Cruz Rivera.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's really a privilege for me to be here with all of you today. Yesterday, as I reflected on the remarks I would deliver here today, I pursued a better understanding of my favorite passage from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s history-bending Selma speech, an excerpt of which I will now read. I know you're asking today how long it will take. Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth, crushed to earth, will rise again. How long? Not long, because no lie can live forever. How long? Not long, because you shall reap what you sow. How long? Not long, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And it is that last line, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice, that has stuck in our collective conscience for decades since it was spoken. Dormant at times, yet very much present at the beginning of each and every year when we, like today, commemorate the life and lessons of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But what I learned yesterday through my reflection, aided by a prolonged submersion into the depths of the internet, was that Reverend King's words were actually surrounded by quotes in his written speech, acknowledging that they were inspired by a sermon delivered more than a century earlier by Theodore Parker, an abolitionist minister from Massachusetts, in which he said the following, quote, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." What I found most interesting about this new piece of acquired knowledge is how, in Dr. King's version, as many historians and literary academics have pointed out, there is a definitive proclamation that the moral universe does in fact bend toward justice. Whereas in Parker's version, the moral universe is bending toward justice is less evident, divined only by the conscience of the observer rather than by the senses through which we experience the physical world. My takeaway, that the moral universe will bend toward justice, but only after being subjected to the forces, stresses, and strains of our relentless and determined actions to convert that ideal into reality. And this, of course, is a loud and clear call to action, to awaken from the dream and work hard day in and day out from wherever we sit and doing whatever we do to parlay the promise of the dream, the inevitable eventual bending of the moral arc, into the reality that we all deserve for ourselves and for our neighbors. Yes, the values professed, battles fought, and just causes advanced by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. remain more than half a century since his life was cut far too short by the forces he helped us learn to confront, a source of inspiration to all those who believe that the best way to perfect our democracy is to act with conviction to advance the causes of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And that is why I am so proud to be part of the Northern Arizona University community of teachers, learners, scholars, advocates, and activists. Pride that I began to recognize early on during my transition to our 17th presidency. Indeed, on April 20th, as I transitioned into a meeting with NAU's diversity fellows and commission co-chairs as part of my hitting the ground learning activities, the judge on the George Floyd murder case read the jury's verdict to the world. The sigh of relief that so many of us breathed as we heard the word guilty 3 times over was warranted, but it was also a sign of a society that is starving for justice. A few days later, as I waited in the baggage carousel area of the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport for my spouse Rima to arrive from Puerto Rico, so we could make our final definitive trip to Flagstaff in anticipation of my first day as president of NAU, I saw many images of our university displayed on electronic billboards. And I couldn't help but reflect on the dozens of formal and informal conversations I had had in the previous several months with those who make or have made NAU a part of their lives. Conversations that had made it clear to me that what we do is so much more than our advertising campaign projects. Because what I had heard from you up to that point in time and since, confidently, passionately, and compellingly, suggested that there was and is a higher purpose to all that we do. We're not only interested in sustainability, we're invested in the disparate impact climate change has on underserved and underprivileged communities around the world. We're not only interested in achieving excellence in our health programs, we're invested in eradicating health inequities that undercut the quality of life of so many in our underrepresented communities. We are not only interested in producing more excellent teachers, we are invested in preparing them to close the opportunity and achievement gaps that limit our society's ability to fully benefit from the rich talent and diverse lived experiences of students living in our most marginalized communities. I could go on, but I won't because I know you get my point. In helping our talented, diverse students meet their aspirations, in working to expand the frontiers of knowledge, and in engaging with our local communities, the university helps build a more just society, a more perfect union, and a more sustainable future. This is what I've learned from you at NAU, and why I approach every day looking forward to the hard, important work ahead. Because it is through education that we break down barriers, weaken oppressive structures, and build the more equitable future we want for all, regardless of their place of origin, the color of their skin, the balance of their checking account, the tenets of their faith, whom they choose to love, or how they strive to live. It is through our work that we do our part to ensure that the long arc of the moral universe does indeed bend toward justice. I close by wishing you and yours the very best today and always. Thank you.
Dr. Margot Saltonstall is not here with us today. In her place, Ariana Kelly will be reading remarks of the Office of Student Affairs. And following Ariana Kelly, we will have reflections from the Commission on Ethnic Diversity, Commission on Disability Access and Design, Commission for Native Americans, LGBTQIA Commission, Commission on the Status of Women, and ASNAU. The ASNAU president will also have a reflection.
Alrighty, as they mentioned, Margot couldn't be here today, so I will be doing her speech. So as an inspirational leader dedicated to the nonviolent struggle for civil rights, Martin Luther King Jr. eloquently speeches steered thought and actions not only during his life, but well beyond. One quote that stands out to me today as our students prepare to volunteer in our community and as the NAU community stands ready to help each other through the surge of COVID by supporting each other and by otherwise relying on each other is, every day can be great because anybody can serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. I particularly like this quote because it resonates with our Northern Arizona University community care ethos. While being great might mean many different things to our lumberjacks who strive and succeed in a multiple of ways in and out of the classroom, today I call on our lumberjacks to be great by serving others, being there for each other and intentionally contributing to each other's success. Whether you volunteer today as part of the celebration of life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or you make a commitment to join one of our many service-oriented student clubs and organizations, or you find other ways, I urge our NAU community to think purposely about how you might use your talent, serve others in our community throughout the state and on our campuses to continue the legacy of Dr. King. Thank you.
Morning. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Martin Lueltis for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you this morning about the connection between the disabilities rights movements and the civil rights movements. My name is James Ingram. I'm here on behalf of CDAD, the Commission on Disability Access and Design. Dr. King's words Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, reverberated through the actions of those who, in the midst of their own struggle for equality, saw it fit to support a group of individuals with disability who were also tired of being treated like second-class citizens. On April 5th, 1972, a group of people entered the federal building that housed the offices of Health, Education, and Welfare in San Francisco, California. For the next 26 days, a group of over 100 people living with blindness, with deafness, with physical disabilities, with mental disabilities, and those living in wheelchairs and with other medical conditions, they occupied the building. Due to the support needs of the occupiers, the task was not easy and could not have been possible without the many contributions of outside agencies. One of the primary support groups was the Black Panthers Party of Oakland. The Black Panthers Party provided daily food, physical support, and protection throughout the occupancy, which was of an undetermined length of time when it started. This act of civil disobedience would not have been possible again, or could have had dire medical constraints on those who were occupying because of the medical conditions that they had that required special attention. Without the contributions of the Panthers, the LGBT community, specifically the Gay Men's Butterfly Brigade and others, the actions of that time were a huge driving force in the passage of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. This important legislation provided an avenue for access to educational services and other public services for people with a variety of disabilities. Not only did those fighting for the equal rights within the civil rights movement lend their support to the disability in San Francisco and in other events within the disability rights movement, but the civil rights movement itself served as a blueprint and was utilized to obtain legal rights for marginalized people through litigation and legislation. One of the initiating factors of the relationship between these two movements was the understanding of intersectionality. Disability knows no racial boundaries and impacts individuals throughout racial and cultural categorization. Therefore, if justice everywhere is a worthy goal, and it is, we must continue to work to stand up for marginalized people, outcasts, wherever they may be. Again, this morning, I thank you for the opportunity to reflect on the collaboration between the civil rights movement and the disabilities rights movement, and the reverberating impact of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, she tetnizatni nishle, Adon Naketli, Chickasaw Chat Thomas to be dan the Kaigi, precious chin. Tetchi in Deshache, Ado Naketli, Cherokee, Louisiana dan the Kaigi, Dashanella. Kiara Weathersby Yanisha, she can flana dan Nasha. I shared my introduction in Denebasad, the Navajo language, because not too long ago, our language was prohibited from being spoken, even though it was a language that was utilized by the federal government in wars for us to have the freedoms that we have today. What I shared is that I am a citizen of the Navajo Nation. I am Tangle people through my mother's side, and then I'm African American, Chickasaw Choctaw of Mississippi. My maternal grandfather is Navajo, and my paternal grandfather was African American and Cherokee from Louisiana. And I'm a mother and a wife. I serve as a manager of student development in the Office of Indigenous Student Success. I am a co-chair of the Commission for Native Americans. And I also serve as the City of Flagstaff on the Indigenous Commission. I appreciate all of you attending in person and virtually. And a hiya to Dr. Jose Luis Cruz Rivera. And much gratitude and recognition to our student leaders in the Black Student Union and my colleagues in the Office of Inclusion who put together this day and pivot gracefully as we navigate this global pandemic. My reflection on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. starts from the perspective of my late father, Carl Weathersby, who was born in Prentiss, Mississippi, and was 1 year old when Emmett Till's life was taken. He was born 2 hours away from Money, Mississippi. And I think of how my paternal grandparents moved their 2 young sons and daughter here to Flagstaff, Arizona, in hopes that their babies would be able to live full lives. At that time, and it's essential to share this, my paternal family was only acknowledged as being Black due to the 1-drop rule. There is a 1-drop rule which indicates that 1 drop makes you fully Black, which is the opposite of blood quantum. So the 1-drop rule would make somebody fully Black in hopes of being able to keep them enslaved. Blood quantum separates the person from being Indigenous in order to remove them to their lineage, to the land. So after Miss Mamie Till Mobley revealed what happened to her son, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. spearheaded the civil rights campaign seeking liberty and justice for all of us. We must also name those historical facts and remember that Dr. King did not willingly give his life. He was assassinated while speaking for all of us. A quote from Dr. Reverend King that resonates with me is from his 1963 book, Why We Can't Wait. Our nation was born in genocide when it embraced the doctrine that the original American, the Indian, was an inferior race. Even before there were large numbers of Negroes on our shores, the scar of racial hatred had already disfigured colonial society. From the 16th century forward, blood flowed in battles of racial supremacy. Are perhaps the only nation which tried as a matter of national policy to wipe out its Indigenous population. Moreover, we elevated that tragic experience into a noble crusade. Indeed, even today, we have not permitted ourselves to reject or feel remorse for this shameful episode. Our literature, our films, our drama, our folklore, all exalt it. So let's learn our history and not deny it. Speak up for those who are disenfranchised and fight for their right to vote. As Dr. King said, we will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Green. I'm with the LGBTQIA Commission. My understanding was that we were only going to get 2 minutes, and mine's really short, sorry. The civil rights movement is beyond pivotal for the LGBTQIA movement. There is so much to say on this topic. I can't get it all in. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera are largely thought of as those who kicked off the LGBTQIA rights movement. And they were both trans women of color. It wasn't peaceful, it was a riot. So they may not have adhered to Dr. King's early doctrines of nonviolence, but it seems undeniable to me that you don't get to Stonewall without the civil rights movement. I also think that Dr. King moved towards more radical politics as he aged. His legacy is often sacrificed by those who would like to tell a different story. They often pit Dr. King against folks like Malcolm X and Kwame Ture and other Black leaders at the time, rather than seeing how each in their own way brought the Black community of America into stronger focus and made it a more conscious time to be Black in America. Black America's intellectual heritage was actually flowering at the time, with folks like Audre Lorde, James Baldwin, and there's so many. It seems cynical and ignorant not to see these men as allies in the cause of Black liberation. It's a sad thing to get caught up in the divisions created by those principles that would oppress us all, the civil rights movement and Dr. King's specific suffering, justice, but also persistence, cultivation, and creed. Marsha P. Johnson understood that struggle. She watched the civil rights era happen, but not for her. It's why she and Sylvia started STAR, the Street Transvestite Activist Revolutionaries, and why the legacy of ballroom culture and other structures throughout the LGBTQ community have persisted. Persistence, cultivation, and creed still speak to something fundamental about all of our movements and why it's still at the heart of what we do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Krell, and I am a member of the LGBTQIA Plus Commission. However, today I will be reading this piece on behalf of Samantha Clifford, the co-chair for the Commission on the Rights of Women. As we pause for reflection on this day dedicated to honoring the inspiring leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we have much to contemplate. The past 3 years in particular have again shown a light on the pervasiveness of systemic inequalities in our world, our nation, and our communities. But it has also brought us together in ways that serve to encourage us that individuals can indeed make a difference. In a time of increasing apathy, the inspiring stories of helping and supporting one another through the devastation of the pandemic would have made Dr. King proud. The past few years of controversy and disagreement sadly demonstrates that there is still much work for us. Solutions to injustice and inequities continue to elude us, but the passion and desire that we all feel towards justice work continues. Dr. King held space for women who were oppressed and denied equality. He was a passionate proponent of fair voting rights and education for all, which are still topics in need of resolving. Building community to strengthen individual lives and to empower us to make changes as a critical mass are essential. Thank you all for getting together today to remember the amazing contributions Dr. King has made to the civil rights movement and to acknowledge what needs to be done because, as he famously stated, true peace is not merely the absence of justice. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. If you were wondering what ASNAU means, that is your student government, and I am the student government president. Lovely to see you all here today. Alrighty. So, as I reflect on the privilege to be speaking today, I recognize the responsibility and honor that comes with it. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a respected leader that we will cherish and admire forever. When I think of Dr. King, I reminisce on his passion, bravery, and the ability to mobilize others. Not only was he a leader for the civil rights movement, but he also spearheaded the Poor People's Campaign, a movement that emphasized public investment in social programs. In this campaign, Dr. King said, quote, "We live in a nation gorged on money while millions of citizens are denied a good education, adequate health services, decent housing, meaningful employment, and even respect. And on top of that, are told to be responsible. The true responsibility for the existence of these deplorable conditions lies ultimately with the larger society, and much of the immediate responsibility for removing the injustices can be laid directly at the door of the federal government. Ultimately, that means we are responsible for initiating change. And it highlights that we are struggling with the same issues today. As college students, instead of laying our concerns at the door of the federal government, we lay our concerns at the door of the university. We ask for $15 minimum wage, for menstrual products in the restrooms, for affordable tuition. For at least a few years, this is our platform. We stand on more than a campus with buildings and students. We stand on an institution which has the power to act, the resources to tap, and the duty to respond. In addition to that, I really want to take time to appreciate and acknowledge the unique and powerful community we have on this campus. The infrastructure of this campus and the structure of a college community overall is created in a way that brings us all together effortlessly. We are currently living with friends, taking classes with people that share the similar interests, joining organizations that make us active participants in our communities. If we could identify the perfect time to activate our advocate switch, I would say it's now, during a phase in our lives where we are provided with resources from various NAU departments, where we can dabble with suggesting policy changes to the university, where we can easily gather like we are today to march for civil rights and other freedoms. On a campus filled with relentless leaders, there is no telling what we can accomplish. Whether small steps or big leaps, Dr. King has encouraged us all to keep moving. So keep moving and take advantage of the community that we have here, willing to support us. Thank you.
In closing, Bernadine Lewis will be speaking, and following Ms. Lewis is the Black Student Union's Community Service Chair, Octavia Sanjusma.
Good day, everyone. Good day to our president, Dr. Cruz Rivera, our vice president and provost, Dr. Karen Pugliese, to our president of the BSU and other BSU leaders, to all of our beloved NAU community and Flagstaff community. We greet you on this Monday as we answer the call to action to rededicate ourselves to building a safe and promising NAU and Flagstaff. Doing this by serving in the model of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On January 15th, Dr. King would have been 93 years old. And it is always on this day that I reflect on what he would say to us if he were still physically here. I'm sure that he would tell us that we have overslept and that it is time to awaken from the dream. For nothing comes to dreamers or sleepers but a dream. He would remind us that we can only make the dream a reality by coming together to work and build partnerships with our communities and to seek to better understand one another. He most certainly would admonish us to work together to heal the wounds of our difficult past. Today, many other King Day celebrations will sing, "We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday." And our chorale did a beautiful rendition of that spiritual. But I ask you today, why is today not that day? Why are we not overcoming? Why is it that we are still in the fight against each other and not to defeat injustice? Why are we not fully woke to the reality that justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a way of life only for courageous people? Not just on today, King Day, should we be reminded that whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Are you able to step out of your comfort zone or your need to be seen and lend a helping hand? It is 17 days into the new year, and yes, we are still living with COVID. But even in this pandemic, we can still do something for others. We can still connect with each other. You can volunteer to transcribe historical documents through the Smithsonian Digital Volunteer Program. You can write letters to the elders who are now living in isolation because of the pandemic through the Letters Against Isolation Project. You can sign up for Upchieve, an online platform that connects low-income students in the US with live volunteer coaches. And here in Flagstaff, you can read online for the Flagstaff Library. Now is the time to wake up and to be intentional about being in favor for justice for all people. When you depart this place in just a few moments, both individually and collectively, be who you are called to be. In any and all ways that you can, seek justice, resist evil, stand strong against all that is negative. Add your voice, move your feet, extend your hands. The dream was for everyone to be seated at the table in unity. Dr. King worked for women's rights, farmers' rights, and the voting rights of European Americans who were not in a socioeconomic position to have their voices heard. Today, let us celebrate the work and legacy of all contributed to the civil rights of all people. NAU faculty and staff, let us teach and encourage the creativity, energy, passion, gifts, and ingenuity of the developing minds that surround us. Let us seek wisdom and peace as we pursue justice, respect, and love for all people. And what does your higher power, your creator, require of you? But to do justice and to show love and kindness and to show empathy and walk in humility. For many, today is just another day off, the first holiday after the new year. For those who are within the sound of my voice, bless you, beloved. If you will leave this place and go out into our community to volunteer in some way, you are not just honoring the legacy of Dr. King. Today, you are responding to what Dr. King considered to be life's persistent and urgent question. What are you doing for others? Can you lend your voice? Can you, as one who leads, be the one that serves? And because it just might make a difference, hold on to that long arc of history like your lives depend on it, and pull with as little or as much strength you have, so that we together, we might help it continue to bend in the direction of justice and peace and equality and dignity and civility for you, for me, for us, and for them, for all peoples. Leave here today with the intent of not just serving today, but for the rest of your life. And President Cruz Rivera, allow me to use this opportunity to ask that NAU and university events would partner with us to make this a real university event, one that will be inclusive of the entire campus and Flagstaff communities. To the NAU community, we need everyone to help build and be stewards of Dr. King's legacy. This work is not just for the Black faculty and staff and the Black Student Union. we are going to invite you to the Ted Johnson Lecture Series, the Murdoch Community Center, and to follow the Lived Black Experience Project to discover what it is like being Black on the mountaintop. And we need you to be there. And so as I close, I want to propose a new definition of greatness. If you want to be great, that's wonderful. If you want to be important, that is wonderful too. And if you want to be recognized, wonderful. But listen to this truth. The greatest among you shall be a servant. And if we all are to agree to this new definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You do not have to hold a special degree to serve. You do not have to be in a particular college or a department to serve. You do not have to identify with specific ethnicity, religion, or gender to serve. You do not have to be connected. Dr. King said that you only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, and you can be that servant. To that, I would add that whatever you do for others, let your effort be made on the side of inclusion, not exclusion, on the side of tolerance, not intolerance. I ask that we, beloved NAU and Flagstaff communities, today that we dedicate and rededicate ourselves to being of service to others, and most of all, be peace.
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I would just like to say thank you all for coming out and attending this event today. It really does mean a lot to us and as a community for us to come together. So in commemoration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his legacy, we have organized 4 volunteer opportunities for our day of service. These 4 locations include the Murdoch Center, the Sunshine Rescue Mission, Hope Cottage, and the Flagstaff Family Food Kitchen. All events will be running from 1 to 3 p.m. For all of those who are interested in volunteering at Hope Cottage or the Flagstaff Family Food Kitchen, there will be transportation available. We have shuttles leaving from the IMQ office at 12:30 p.m. So we ask if you will be participating in those events and need a ride, that you arrive in the office about 10 minutes early. We do have sign-up sheets just in the back, so behind the double doors right around the corner if you'll be interested in participating today. And once again, we thank you and we hope to see you there. If you would like to join us in our commemorative march, we will be meeting downstairs, I believe by the north door. And I also would like to personally thank you all for being here today. And I hope you guys all have a beautiful and blessed day.
everyone, we do want to thank you for coming out. Thank you for being a part of this. And as Riley said, we will be meeting downstairs for those who will be participating in the march. Those who are interested in service opportunities, there is a sign-up sheet in the back. And if you happen to be at the Office of Inclusion, they will be there as well. If you would like any more information, please contact us. Look for our information on social media. We thank you again for coming. President Cruz Rivera, thank you for being here. For all the members of the commission who spoke, Tracy Gleason Harvey, the Director of the Office of Inclusion, Joey Ruiz, who's helped us in the back with our camera and our tech, thank you so much. This has been a great day to put this together, and to sing us out will be the School of Music. Once again, thank you so much.